I'm just not going to use an American service. Really?
Easy pickings.
Really now? Are you sure? Most of the tech companies that people use nowadays are pretty much American companies out there. And anytime a foreign company comes in, the US makes a whole song and dance about, oh, but what about the security risks? Brother, there are security risks everywhere. And it really just matters which country wants everyone's data. You know, the reality of all of this, too, is when you look at situations like in France, where a lot of governments are like, fuck Microsoft, fuck Windows, let's kill that reliance and switch to something like Linux. A world that is self-hosted, free and open source, where the technology is owned, where the actual systems are mostly owned by the people, who produce them, who curate them, who, develop them, is a much better world than being in the hands of a few companies out in Silicon Valley that back channel to, I would argue, one of the most fascistic governments, turning into rather very rapidly. But anyways, all things aside, ladies and gentlemen, how does Google kind of fit into this? Well, if you go back to that Congress situation, that part of the law, which was Section 702, which gives the NSA the ability to spy on foreigners using data drawn from the U.S. digital infrastructure, so Google, Microsoft, Yahoo. Critics, obviously, who are pretty against this, say that it allows the NSA, and who also work with every other federal agency, to mine information without a warrant, which is exactly what it is. You would think that the party of small government, right, would probably champion against the big deep state from grabbing your shit, but actually it seems like, if anything, they're just hardening that stuff. They're extending it instead of actually culling it where it should be. Even if you think you're safe, remember, a lot of your information can be purchased from data brokers. And I would love to come in here with a sponsor read. It would make me money, but ultimately, there is no better sponsor than common fucking sense when it comes to, listen, opt out from every data broker you can. Try to limit your data footprint. That's literally the best advice I can actually give you. And sometimes it feels like an uphill losing battle. So a bunch of Google employees started writing this letter that you're seeing on the screen to the actual CEO of Google, Sundar Pichai. So they write, "We are Google employees who are deeply concerned about ongoing negotiations between..."
Oh man, these motherfuckers, man.
Benches and garage.
Department of Defense or the Department of War, depending on how deep up the ass of the government you are. As people working on AI, we know that these systems can centralize power and that they do make mistakes. You know, we've talked about things like flock cameras basically misreading people. Hey, we've talked about their own systems, Google, flagging parents as pedophiles for sending images, the doctor-requested images of their children, to the doctors to take care of their kids, right? Again, these are AI systems. They don't have sentience, okay? If they flag something, it can really fuck your life up. We feel that our proximity to the technology creates a responsibility to highlight and prevent its most unethical and dangerous uses. Brother, you work for a fucking company that bends over backwards to the US government or any of its requests effectively like a, fucking $3 hooker. You lost all your fucking privileges to have moral superiority when you chose to work. You fucking knew. Bitch, this ain't no co-op. Okay, you knew what they were doing. So I find these kind of letters to basically be as effective as like one-ply toilet paper. Therefore, we ask you to refuse to make our AI systems available for classified workloads. Classified meaning that obviously the US government can request Google's AIs to do things that ethically you might find a little damning, whether they be for autonomous weapon systems or realistically, mostly for mass surveillance, which I think is really evil when it comes to Google in particular because, a lot of people think, oh, Google's just a fucking search engine that makes its money through advertising. Why do you think Gemini, a lot of their code is actually good, right? Why do you think a lot of the stuff they produce is really, really good? Because it's trained, I would imagine, and again, this is an allegation that I personally believe, that obviously I think Google probably trains off of the vast repository.
This too an opener. Grenade out!
Bro,
User content that's stored in Google Photos, a lot of the user content that people think is given to them for free. Google back in the day was handing out free storage for photos, right? Why do you think they would give you free storage for every single photo imaginable? There has to be some catch imaginable, right? Which is why their video generation models, photo generation models can sometimes look night and day better than some of the other competition they have. Why do you think the AI stuff has gotten so good so fast? Because it has all of your user data to effectively train off of. Why do you think a site like YouTube is so important to a platform like Alphabet or Google? Because it provides tons and tons of user-provided storage data. Except in this case, at least the YouTuber who's providing that information, that data, can at least get fucking paid for it, until of course we all get replaced by some AI model that wants to basically replicate and slosh out as much content that draws in as much eyes, whether they be bots or not, is a totally separate story. We want to see AI benefit humanity, not to see it being used in inhuman or extremely harmful ways. That includes lethal autonomous weapons and mass surveillance, but extends beyond. Who do you think you work for, okay? Like, what the fuck? Currently, the only way to guarantee that Google does not become associated with such harms is to reject any classified workload. Otherwise, such uses may occur without our knowledge or the power to stop them, which is very true. There's no oversight, there's nobody watching over what companies like Google are doing when they're working with the US government, okay? When the US government wants to fucking audit itself or check if it's doing it, the investigation it does upon itself usually is not the same scrutinous investigation they do on other people, private entities, that they have an interest in. Making the wrong call right now would cause irreparable damage to Google's reputation, business, and role in the world. You can't you can't end Google, okay? One of the largest tech companies in the world, okay? One of the most visited fucking websites in the world. I might be a Sear XNG enjoyer, but let's not forget, okay, when it's offline, not many people have the ability to start their own search engines or even want to go through that effort where they can escape the Google matrix and use something that is genuinely better outside of it. Anyway, so ultimately, they went from this letter. And how effective was this letter, ladies and gentlemen? Well, I'll tell you how effective this fucking letter actually was. Google, unironically, the same fucking day, signed
Hey,
a
you
deal
two,
with
off the back up, bro.
Yep, literally like this morning, Pentagon inks a deal with the Google.
Oh, hold up. I forgot I'm streaming. Damn, what's going on over there? I'll see in a second after I change this set.
Be advised, Op 4 has located a bomb.
Where everybody at, man?
Because I'm up square. They could repel on windows. Upside down. I'm already repelled into the top square.
Okay.
They could go upside down with building. Do reload. Repel on top square now. Go back to side window.
Op 4, last operator.
Ooh. Tee up time.
A company for AI services. Yeah, there
And if
you
anybody
go.
in the chat, holler,
Pentagon
man.
is involved.
Hey, I know it's like
Now,
the
this
middle
could
of
be
the
a
night,
whole
so
variety of things. It
ain't
could be
got no
that,
idea.
obviously they could just have access to
You know.
government available AI, which means
You gonna
the most
stream
available
anyways, bro.
uptime,
I'm gonna stream
maybe
anyways.
some tweet settings for
I
the
want
government to have, the AI do things that it probably wasn't going to be doing, for the private or the public market. But the thing is, let's be completely real here, incorporating all of these artificial intelligences alongside with, loosening the restrictions on mass surveillance. Look, I said this like a couple of videos ago. I've actually been saying this forever. But when it used to be that you had one agent that sat down and was like, all right, these are like 5 names that I have to watch over. You have to be a pretty important guy. You have to be like a fucking Osama bin Laden, a fucking El Chapo, a Vladimir Putin to even be considered, hey, let's have somebody with a full-time salary watching every move that guy makes, right? But now it doesn't matter. You could be the most irrelevant, unimportant person. And all it would take is one little AI agent watching every single move you make on the internet. It costs pennies. It costs the government basically nothing. It's effectively free for them to mass surveil people with the assistance of AI, LLM models, etc. Now, speaking of that, now they're just working with them. So obviously Google did not answer any question really about what this deal was, right? And obviously, I don't think they would, simply because what do you think they're doing with the Pentagon? Okay, do you think they're fucking? Do you think they're vibe coding some shitty applications? Fuck no. Okay, this is for the military, and this is ultimately for mass surveillance
Down to
systems.
5 seconds.
That's how it fucking works. We've looked at it in the past. The Defense Department, when they work with artificial intelligence, usually means they flush with outdated information, and a bunch of random people on the other side of the world get fucking drone strike out of existence. And the government's like, wait a minute, that was bad use of hundreds of thousands of dollars. That was pretty ethically damning.
What y'all feeling like, man? This really what y'all doing? Catch it over. Hold up, coming through, bro. Oh shit! Hey, bottom blue stairs, bottom blue stairs.
But who's gonna stop them, right? It's like, who's gonna stop the Department of War from committing fucking war crimes, right? Like, is it gonna be you? Is it gonna be any other country? Hell no. You know, I think there's a lot of stuff that Google does that I think is genuinely really cool for the world. You know, I think that Google as a technology company has provided some, immeasurable value. But I think when you take this same technology and you start stuffing it into the military in such a disgusting,
Automatically.
every single thing going forward that companies
Order
like
health.
Google, and let's not isolate Google specifically. Obviously, you know, Microsoft has worked with the government. There are companies that, you know, I don't necessarily care for, like Apple, that have at least
white.
shown that they have some level of a spine where they actually go in and challenge the FBI
In
when
lobby
it comes
now.
to reading actual devices or breaking encryption. But then at the same time, you have companies like Google that are basically taking advantage of a lot of bad press going on right now with other AI companies. You know, I've talked about this probably a month ago, but obviously Anthropic, the guys who make Claude, literally have an issue with the Department of War right now where they are considered a supply chain risk. Now, they produce such a good LLM, apparently, that even the NSA, despite this being a supply chain risk, are apparently still fucking using it. You know what I mean? So ultimately, in the end, they disagree with all of this stuff. And why did they even get this supply chain risk designation? Because they didn't want to contribute to their AI being used unnecessarily for warfare, right? They thought that their models weren't good enough to make those, killing decisions right there and then, okay? Maybe in the future when things get resolved and the hallucination drops a little bit, but right now, it's actually irresponsible. And that's the thing, the military will say, listen, it's just...
Right, they kind of but I don't really care
I don't think
because
the military really cares about protecting you, even if you're an American. The military likes to pursue their interests basically by having the largest enforcement group in the entire world. I look at governments the same way I look at the fucking mob. The only reason the government is so powerful is because they do really have the best set of enforcers. If it wasn't for the U.S. military or law enforcement agencies, I think a lot of people would have much more balls standing up for their government if it wasn't for the fact that their fucking necks could be crushed within literal seconds. Not even by a human being anymore, probably by a fucking robot, okay? Probably by some autonomous drone that's flying above them. That's the reality of the fucking situation. Google has, without a doubt, probably done one of the more evil things in its life. And Google's been around for a long time. They've worked with the government before. But I think with this current government and the fact that mass surveillance is so rapidly normalized all over the world, I was reading that in Greece, they were talking about getting rid of internet anonymity, and in places like Manitoba and Canada, the argument of protecting the children by getting rid of that anonymity, by age verifying, is reaching a point where anybody's access to the internet itself is going to be something that is highly controlled. You have to basically dox yourself, and you have to dox your entire, internet footprint out there, so that when these systems are pilfering through the network, it's a lot easier to attribute one person to their entire internet footprint. Getting rid of the final little bits of internet anonymity is sort of the final completed arc for full frontier level mass surveillance. And I think Google has basically sold you out. They've sold their own morals and principles out just for the bag, and literally because they have no follow-through with standing up to an entire government that is slowly but surely wanting to control every single thing their masses do. It used to be like years ago that I was saying, listen, countries like China where you have no freedom of speech, no freedom of expression, you can't browse the internet in any way, you can't even type, you can't even share an image of Winnie the fucking Pooh without the government going on your ass, and that's really bad. But you're at a point where if you make one meme about the president that isn't kosher, you might literally have a few agents showing up to your fucking house and probably questioning you about something. Something that when I was growing up, they used to teach us, back in Nazi Germany, they had the whole Gestapo, they had the whole they had the whole authoritarianism locked down like a science. But here's the thing, if the Nazis could have the same tech we had now, shit would be kind of blaringly like it would be pretty Black Mirror-ish to sort of see what they would do. But I think ultimately, you know, with governments like the U.S. and governments like the Chinese or whatever, you're really not able to. It's really difficult to differentiate what freedom is anymore. It's really difficult to, you know, not see the parallels and mass surveillance take place in the freest country in the world versus a country that is very authoritarian. And that's obviously just China in itself. You know, Google, big fucking shame on you, man.
The area.
And honestly, big shame on the people that chose to willingly work with Google, writing the software, and then writing some fucking bullshit pissant letter, hoping that it was gonna fucking change something or morally fucking like guilt trip the CEOs of this company. They don't give a shit, okay? They'll sell their own fucking mothers out first, okay? For like $3.50. Who the fuck why do you think they would even give a shit about humanity to begin with, man? Fuck this. You know, it's one of the reasons why I say self-host, get off the digital grid, the mass surveillance grid as quick as you can, because the internet is the last bastion of real, and it will remain the last bastion of real. You just have to work 10 times harder to enjoy that freedom and privacy
Located by Op 4.
than you once did. But I am
L. Big old L. Yeah, we'll see about it. We'll definitely see about that type of shit, man. No bad. What got going on over here, man? Hey, dog, I'm faded, guy. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. I ain't coming. Bro, how long have I been streaming? Nah, that shit damn near made me turn off the stream. I ain't gonna lie. Damn, I'm probably way too loud, but nah, that shit was pretty terrible. I ain't gonna lie. I'm sorry. Like, I think we deserve to lose this round, all things considered, even though we had that 5-3 advantage.
And clap sync. This is Markiplier Power Wash Podcast Power.
All right. What the fuck?
Is that EMP? Is that you, Bob?
Blue paddock on my wrist. Okay.
Alright, I am going to be blabbering about a company that I have disliked for a long time. PSA. I made a video a little over a month ago covering a PSA scandal when it came to a lenticular Pokemon card, a lenticular Deoxys, where, just to boil it down to the brass tacks here, getting it to its birthday suit, basically, someone had a very rare Pokemon card, a lenticular Deoxys, that was a 10, a PSA 10, but it was an old cert, and they were looking to have it reholdered so they could turn and sell it. They had interested buyers, and this was a very PSA themselves had even sold this exact card for $45,000 very recently. Well, when this customer went to have this card reholdered, PSA damaged it, bringing it down numerous grades and tanking its value, which means they could now no longer sell it for a potentially life-changing amount of money. And upon this fuck-up,
PSA offered to give them $20,000 for their mistake, which is less than half of what PSA had sold that exact card for earlier. There was also the stipulation that PSA baked in and made known to this customer that they had just face fucked, that if they accept that $20,000 lowball from PSA for what they called fair market value, which is based on basically nothing, they pulled it out of their ass, because again, they themselves had even sold this exact card for $45,000, yet they're only offering this guy $20K after destroying the card. But anyway, the stipulation that they also had in place is that if they do accept that offer, they have to sign an NDA, so that way he can't speak about it. It has to be hush hush. Gotta bury it. Which most people found to be very sketchy, very odd. The whole thing was peculiar. If you want to get caught up on that,
Bro, chat. I thought I was gonna chat. And, you know, I didn't even want to be up at this time, but you know, like this is really only the good time. This is really the only good time to have internet. Unfortunately, because you know, family got work and shit. You know what I mean?
Located a bomb.
Okay. Play to be made here. Okay. Dude, I'm gonna kill me. Yeah, okay. No, I should have swung him, bruh. Oh, fuck, nah.
the
I give
video's
up,
up on
man.
my channel. But the point is, I have been really glued to PSA and its scandals for a little while, and I've been digging deep into PSA recently because it is just so much more fascinatingly odd that it is still as big as it is. It is the biggest in the card grading space by a mile, and
Hey,
I
this
don't
low-key
think it should be at all.
A big old elbow. Womp womp.
To me, PSA is fucked up. I think it is shady beyond belief, and I don't know why card collectors still keep choosing to go to PSA to grade their cards, and I don't know why their slabs are the ones.
PSA. PSL. PS5L. Big old L. Gigantic L. Huge L. You know, like. Shit, I don't even know, bro. Something. feel me? The brightening tabs, I think. It's okay.
Bro, we need to rotate in sight. We have nobody in sight besides me, and I don't have anything for rotate.
I was worried about sight and shit. Well, lucky being a PUSSY, I think.
Hey, it just rushed me to black hole, bro. Go watch this match.
No. Bro. Well. We're low-key selling, unfortunately. It's all good.
Ladies and
First,
gentlemen,
first spamming
we
the
are back with R6 GeoGuessr.
the crouch.
And this one is
Bro, that
even
crouch
better
shit
than the
low-key
last
don't
one
work, bro.
because
I'm gonna lie.
we added in a mini-map.
Or maybe it
Highlights
does.
the
I
side of
guess
this website, literally. We added
it has
a
to
mini-map
work,
where I can
right?
pick any of these maps.
One way or another.
I don't know what it is, but when a company reaches a certain size, they almost always become pure evil. From poisoning entire cities, to creating a drug epidemic, to literally killing babies. There is nothing megacorps won't do to squeeze out as much profit as possible. Bro, I swear most of these companies would nuke half the world if it meant their stock price would go up $1. But you know, this got me thinking, which company is the most evil? Well, let's take a look and you be the judge. Nestle, or Nestle, is one of the largest food companies on the planet, and they own 2,000 brands. There's a decent chance you have something in your kitchen today. Kit Kats, Nescafe, Gerber, Pizza Hut, so on and so on. Well, in a few minutes, you're going to want to take all that shit out of your pantry and burn it in a fire. You know, growing up, I actually really liked Nestle, okay? I liked the Crunch Bar. I liked that chocolate milk powder that would put you in a diabetic coma after 3 scoops. And I had fond memories.
Bro, that
of the
powder.
chocolate rabbit from those commercials.
Can't sleep on that powder, man. Pause.
Nestle is the kind of brand you associate with the innocence of youth. A simpler time back before your dad left the family and your uncle became an international fugitive. Well, it turns out the family-friendly image is incredibly ironic.
Your mission is to locate and defuse the bomb.
Okay. No. Hey, bro, holla if you in the chat, man. It was... I'm hella patient, bro. I could sit here all day, no bap. All right.
Bro, are you kidding?
Located a bomb.
This is running up East Main, East Main, East Main. Kind of missing corner and security, bro.
Bro. What's up, bro?
Funny, considering the fact that
Fuck that
Nestle
push, bro.
spent the last 50 years killing babies. No, seriously, they got
Yo,
caught running
yo,
a
a pussy,
marketing
bro.
scheme that contributed to massive infant mortality in developing countries. Yeah, I didn't want to believe it either, but turns out that chocolate rabbit is a serial killer. The signs were there all along, we just all ignored it. So yeah, let's talk about the Nestle formula scandal. In the 1970s, Nestle started aggressively marketing infant formula across Africa, Asia, and Latin America. When I say aggressively, I mean they sent sales representatives into hospitals dressed as nurses. These women would walk into maternity wards and hand out free samples of formula to new mothers along with pamphlets. They'd convince the mothers that the formula was just as good as breast milk, sometimes better. In some cases, they even visited the mothers at home after they left the hospital to make sure they were still using the product. Now, here's the thing about breastfeeding. If a nursing mother stops doing it for an extended period, her babies stop producing milk. The free samples that the fake nurses handed out lasted just long enough for the mother to naturally stop producing. So once the calcium tap ran dry, the mothers had no
Really
choice
feeling that I
but
could
to
run
buy
the Clash here.
more
This
Nestle
is very
formula.
drone shields.
So they were forced to
Why are we-
water it down to make it last longer, which meant the babies weren't getting enough
this is-
nutrients. In a lot of these
No,
communities, the
hey,
water
don't be
itself
so-
wasn't clean, so they would either use dirty water, which would endanger the babies even more, or they would have to buy water bottles from Nestle. That's a whole nother rabbit hole we'll get into in a second. So I don't think I need to spell out what happened next. The backlash was massive. In 1977, activists launched an international boycott against Nestle that became one of the most famous corporate boycotts in history. It spread across multiple countries and lasted years. The whole thing got so bad that the World Health Organization stepped in and created an entire international code of marketing breast milk substitutes. And while these rules were being set, Nestle was branching out from child killing to child slavery. In 2021, the U.S. Supreme Court heard a case involving allegations that Nestle had aided and abetted forced child labor on cocoa farms on the Ivory Coast. So we're talking about kids as young as 11 being trafficked from neighboring countries to work on these farms, allegedly. The plaintiffs argued that Nestle's financial support and purchasing agreement with these farms made them complicit. Eventually, the Supreme Court dismissed the case, but not because they said the child slavery wasn't happening, just because they said it couldn't be tried in America since Nestle is a French company and this was happening in Africa. But that didn't stop Nestle.
Okay. Okay.
From using these dismissals. So while they didn't get punished legally, the slavery thing was definitely not good PR. Nestle promised to take steps to reduce their dependence on slave chocolate and slapped a fair trade label on some of their chocolate bars, which was a guarantee that slavery was not used in the chocolate supply chain of that particular product. Not all their chocolate has this label on it. You know, I'll let you figure out why that is. Okay, but to their credit, they have definitely reduced the amount of slavery in their supply chain, but I mean, oh, we only have some slaves now. It's kind of like a guy going on trial for murdering 17 people, and his defense is, but Your Honor, I only killed 2 people. Is the judge gonna say, oh, yo, you only killed 2 people? Well, that's better than 17, I guess. No, he's gonna go to prison. Now, this stuff is already bad enough, but we're not even done yet. To top off the shit Sunday, we need to talk about Nestle's obsession with owning water. This is so comically evil that it's almost funny. In the town of Osceola, Michigan, Nestle extracted hundreds of thousands of dollars of groundwater and sold it back to people in bottles while paying next to nothing for the permits. While these streams in the town were drying up, Nestle's tankers were full of that sweet, sweet H2O. So they were basically privatizing a public resource and forcing people to buy their microplastic-infused bottles. Nestle CEO Peter Brabeck once said that water being a human right was extreme. His position was that water should be privatized and given a market value. Gotta bring back guillotines, man. That's not a call to violence, by the way. This is a completely unrelated thought I just had. Guillotines are cool. Purdue Pharma was a family-owned pharmaceutical company. We love a family business, don't we, folks? Well, this particular family, the Sacklers, almost single-handedly created the opioid crisis in the U.S. Now, I have a personal connection to this one because I almost got addicted to painkillers after I was diagnosed with Gilmore's groin in 2014. Luckily, I kicked it, but unfortunately, I picked up a nasty nitrous oxide addiction instead. But whatever, let's talk about Purdue Pharma. For most of its history, Purdue Pharma was relatively unremarkable. They had a pretty good reputation and stayed out of the headlines. But that would all change in 1996.
Like what?
They launched their flagship product, OxyContin. It was this one pill that would turn a mid-tier drug company into a billion-dollar empire practically overnight. And then it imploded just as fast. OxyContin is a time-released, opium-based painkiller. Purdue marketed it as a safer, less addictive alternative to other opioids, and their sales reps convinced doctors that the risk of addiction was less than 1%. The biggest lie since my dad said he was going out to get milk. That less than 1% statistic wasn't based on any clinical evidence or anything. It apparently came from a brief letter to the editor of a medical journal that was never intended to be used as a marketing point. But Purdue ran with it anyways because, you know, evil. Armed with their fake stats, Purdue started one of the most aggressive drug-pushing campaigns since Pablo Escobar. PP through lavish conferences at resorts, flew physicians out on all-expense paid vacations, and handed out huge bonuses to reps based on how many prescriptions they could generate. The whole operation was engineered to flood the market with OxyContin, and it was working. The revenue stream was so good that Nestle tried to privatize it. Prescriptions skyrocketed, revenue went through the roof, and these mother Sacklers were making money hand over fist. But the bomb.
Oh hell no. Shit. Bro, YouTube don't DMCA me. That shit was an accident, bro. You know I love you guys. I would never do that. Hold up, let me make sure I'm still streaming. Yeah. Let me make sure I'm still streaming. Yeah, I love y'all.
It wouldn't be long till the problems started. So the whole idea behind Oxy is that it was less likely to cause addiction because the onset of the drug was slower and the effects were more sustained. But the thing is, OxyContin's time-release coating could easily be...
So do we want to open this up like that? Try and make some more holes, boss. Playtime. Oh, I'm dead. No, I guess I'm not. Okay, well, I'm inside, guys. Wouldn't you know it? Wouldn't y'all know it that I'm in sight? Bro, bro. What is this game? Like, what's happening right now?
Once, something that PP was aware of. A lot of people were using Oxycontin, and they were getting hooked fast. When the prescriptions were out, a lot of them turned to heroin or fentanyl because it was cheaper and easier to get. Communities across America, entire towns in the Rust Belt, Appalachia, and New England had turned into Resident Evil. Since 1999, over 500,000 people have died because of opiates. This is in large part
Bro,
due to
no, I didn't see your.
Bro, that shit was hella loud, bro. Whatever that was. Hold on, I'm gonna read the transcript. Hey guys, I'm gonna make AI read the transcript. I ain't gonna lie. Let me pull out the text to speech. Okay, here we go. See what she said. Oh, y'all can't see this. Let me put this right here. Okay, let's hear this. Bro, I swear I selected a voice, bro. What's going on, cuh? Voice, okay.
Bro, no. I didn't see your fucking Christmas text. Dude. You're so fucking dude. You're the best. Thank you, bro. Merry late Christmas. But for real, I hope you're doing so fucking good. We haven't talked in a minute, but I hope shit's going well for you. And this year is my year, bro. And it's our year. Actually, it's our year. But dude, it's been so long. It's so crazy to think it's been like so long since I've seen you. That shit's so crazy to me. But I hope you're doing good.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Okay. Shit, I accidentally leaked it. It don't really matter, to be honest. I don't really care, to be honest, because that's just really not that deep. Dog shit.
It's so crazy to think it.
Yeah, all love, all love. Okay.
Purdue Farmers Market. Now, you're probably wondering if anyone was punished for all this. Well, Purdue guilty of federal criminal charge. They admitted they had misled doctors and regulators about the drug's addiction. Company paid $600 million in fines. Man, that sounds like a lot of money. Realize how many billions they were making off the drug. Now you'd think that a couple of convictions would put an end to this whole thing, but these schmucks kept going. They were still marketing their drug. Now they did it a little bit more carefully. After the conviction, Purdue started offering paid kickbacks to doctors and pharmacists to prescribe it. They found new ways to put the drug within regulation, so the bodies kept piling up, but so did the lawsuits. Purdue was getting sued so much that they were forced to file for bankruptcy.
All Nick all tobacco.
Final nail in the coffin.
Let's shoot me for it. Let's go on over.
I'm so sorry. No, they're on the other window. Oh, spotted. Go for it. Is it? Okay. Good job, Naylor 28.
What?
Sorry. I got it.
Woo! Hey, bro, I'm over here dodging in real life at that. Oh my gosh. Bro, I'm just running around, bro. I feel fluid, bro.
The Department of Justice came back for round 2. This time,
Fucking got me.
Purdue pleaded guilty to 3 more federal criminal charges. Total penalty over $8 billion. There was no coming back from that. But what happened to the Sackler? The company was gone. The family had looted over $10 billion from paying. Internal documents showed that family members were fully aware of the addiction crisis. They saw the reports, they read the numbers, they knew what was happening.
I'm
The
gonna
lawsuits started piling up. They used the bankruptcy process to shield
Bro, I'm autistic, bro. I ain't gonna lie.
from liability.
It's all good.
It's kind of genius in the most evil way possible. Luckily, in 2024, the Supreme Court blocked a proposed settlement that would have given the Sacklers broad immunity from civil lawsuits. The court basically said you can't use anyone else's bankruptcy to make your own problems disappear. A revised
blessed up,
settlement
y'all.
was eventually reached, with the
For
Sacklers
real.
agreeing to pay up to $6.5
For real.
billion. Their names have been quietly removed from museums and university buildings that they
Bro, I low-key don't want to go Scopus no more. I don't know why it keeps giving me this out. But then I think and I'm like, who do I really want to go? Damn, why do we all have...
The Sackler family has gone to
fuck's going on? We had like 4 impacts. Is that W? Is that Pro League?
Now the thing is, Pharma isn't the only company to blame for the whole opioid crisis. Sure, they played a huge role, but they wouldn't have been able to do it without the good folks at Johnson & Johnson. Johnson & Johnson has been around for over 100 years. And
Oh, that company?
they're the second largest drug and biotech company in the world by market cap. They're behind a ton of brands that we use every day, like Tylenol, Benadryl, and Johnson's Baby Shampoo. You know, the one whose slogan was "No More Tears."
Be advised, Op 4
Kind of
has found a
ironic
bomb.
because J&J has caused a lot of tears. In the 1890s, J&J created their now infamous baby powder, made with talc. Talc is this like soft, clay-like mineral that's great for absorbing moisture. The best part of it is it has no negative health effects. Unfortunately, talc, in its natural state, also contains asbestos, which has a lot of negative health effects. Okay, you guys remember those mesothelioma commercials?
That's not good, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Hello. Where is
On
it?
a scale of 1 to fuck, how fucked am I?
What's going on?
Fucked. There's a little trigger downstairs.
No, fucking hell.
Attention. If you or a loved one was diagnosed with mesothelioma, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Mesothelioma is a rare cancer linked to asbestos exposure.
Asbestos has also been linked to ovarian cancer. In 1982, a Harvard researcher found that women who were using talcum powder were 3 times as likely to get ovarian cancer.
See, like, that was a free kill.
Coming up throughout the 80s and 90s, J&J continued to market their product as completely safe, safe enough for babies. But eventually, the chicken the first of many talcum powder lawsuits came in 2000.
Bro, what's going on, bro?
Medical assistant Deanne Berg
Bro, these are the crazy lobbies.
diagnosed with ovarian cancer. J&J offered her a $1.3 million settlement in exchange for signing a confidentiality agreement, but she declined. Deanne wanted the information to be public. What followed was a brutal court battle.
No, I'm not even gonna say nothing, bro.
Their $1 million legal team
Not even gonna say
Deanne didn't
nothing, bro.
stand a chance. Oh shit, she won. I wasn't expecting that. Well, kinda. She didn't actually get any money, but a jury found J&J's negligence contributed to her cancer diagnosis. So even though
Hey, do I need to go
Deanne
read
didn't
that
get a
tech
cash
right now?
injection herself,
What y'all-
she
what y'all-
opened the
what y'all
floodgates
saying?
for other people to sue the Johnson off of Johnson & Johnson. As of late
TV
2025,
flexes
more than
away.
90,000 lawsuits have been
T-Rex
filed.
Demon, can I put
J&J
that on
was
fuck
basically bullied into completely
This new
halting
Bolo
the
tech.
sale of talc-based baby powder and switching to a cornstarch alternative. But the best part is they've had to pay billions
Yo,
of
Bismillah,
dollars.
bro.
They tried to
Bismillah.
paying settlements by declaring bankruptcy,
What that mean?
but were rejected by multiple judges.
that mean?
Some experts
Gotta fuck up.
estimate that J.
Hold on, I gotta look that shit. Other type shit. Man, fuck.
Oh, I forgot. You're my mom. My bad. My bad. I forget. I'm sorry. I forget how useless that operator is.
10 seconds left. Down to 5 seconds.
You guys, why am I the only one pushing?
Op 4 has located a bomb.
Oh, fuck, reinforcement. Bro, I don't even know what a reinforcement is.
I don't know that anymore, how long it is, like that is.
I'm 12.
I'm trying to get my Damos press over.
Oh my god. I'll get the jump on
Razor
Burger.
blade on this door here.
Well, it worked, didn't it? Oh shit, it didn't. My fault. It was a different one.
One on locker window.
I don't know. I'm here for now.
They're in in on barrier. 10.5, 10.5, stand them up.
Op 4 is defusing the bomb.
Bro, we're low key fucking.
One in hallway. Upstairs. Touching your hallway.
One friendly remaining.
1 and 5, still laying on the floor.
Bro,
And failed. All friendly.
J&J
Bro,
will have to pony
this
up
shit's fucked,
over
bro.
$11 billion once all the lawsuits are resolved. Now, I mentioned earlier that Purdue Pharma wouldn't have been able to get America addicted to opiates without Johnson & Johnson. Well, that's because J&J was directly involved in the opium supply chain. In the 80s, Johnson desperately needed to score some opium, one of their best-selling products. Tylenol with codeine. God damn, man, they used to put lean in Tylenol? I really was born in the wrong generation. J&J purchased a bunch of poppy farms in Tasmania, but they weren't just using the opium for their own products. They had a surplus, which they sold to other companies like Purdue Pharma. When they were pushing OxyContin heavy, J&J was one of their main suppliers. Oh, and if that wasn't bad enough, it was recently revealed that one of J&J's
Bro, low-key, like, I was cooking with the Boss G recently, but like, I ain't been cooking with the Boss G, you feel me? Like,
my mom took a lot of Tylenol when she was pregnant.
like sometimes it's just like that, you know, like, the Boss G is just that type of gun. Unless you're stomping. Yeah, it's probably hella good.
Kickoff, the #1 credit building app on the App Store. Now, I don't have to tell you guys, but your credit matters. Whether it's renting a place, getting approved for a car, buying a house, just having better options financially. It makes a real difference. If your credit isn't great right now, Kickoff is probably one of the easiest ways to start building it. It's simple, low pressure, and helps you build credit over time without overcomplicating things. The plan starts at just $5 a month, and your on-time payments get reported to all 3 major
Hey, is that low-key a W app?
so you don't have to think about it. Kickoff users
Hey, y'all, hop on that app if y'all credit, but low-key. Yeah, you know we skipping these ads though.
It actually moves the needle. Kind of like I think that's refreshing considering all the doom and gloom we've been talking about. Right now, Kickoff is giving my audience 80% off their first month. That's just $1 to get started. Click the link in my description to check it out. Thank you, Kickoff. I don't know why I did that thing with my hand, but thanks. Let's get back to the video.
Okay.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. Meta, really? You're putting Facebook on the same category as chemical spillers, opioid shillers, and baby killers? Well, hey man, I gotta pad the runtime somehow. But in all seriousness, Meta is pretty bad. Maybe they're not as comically evil as some of the...
Wait, no. Shit, motherfucker's dying like that.
I know what you're thinking. Meta...
Well, no one took the impact of these, so we're kind of fucked.
We don't need them, bro.
That's not what I meant to do. Bro, fucking hell. Get up. Where?
Gates and B.
Wow.
They're my last on stage.
One op 4 remaining.
In here, but I was. You just got like LinkedIn job request. What?
If I lose South, Mr. Buble has to fight me.
Putting Facebook on the same category as chemical spillers.
What is wrong with this person?
Well, hey man, I gotta pad the runtime somehow.
Oh my
But in all
God.
seriousness, Meta is pretty bad. Maybe they're not as comically evil as some of the other guys, but Meta's influence on our society is definitely a net negative.
Check this out. Wow. So that's pretty neat.
I was surprised to learn that Facebook is still the biggest social
Bro, I can't even show y'all. Bro, I wish I could show y'all. I just laughed.
insane because I don't know anybody who uses it. Like,
Oh my
uses
God,
Facebook, bro. Like the only person I know that still uses Facebook is my uncle Ruben. I don't know, man, but what I do know is that Facebook.
Yeah, I know my Uncle Ruben got Facebook too, bro. It's all good, man.
Like Cambridge Analytica.
It's all good, bro.
Political advertising. In 2019, the FTC hit them with a $5 billion fine over privacy violations. It was the largest privacy penalty in FTC history. What's insane is that after the announcement, Facebook's stock price actually went up because investors were expecting it to be way worse. You know, so yeah, they take our data and use it to psyop us, but that's only like the third worst thing they've done. Facebook has also been one of the primary...
Double.
10 seconds to go.
No burger? No
5
fries,
seconds
nothing?
before insertion.
I go to the drive-thru when I ask for the cookie style fries.
Thank you so much. Do you have any
Fire.
Say what bro. Say what
Bro, I don't like these people, bro.
That on all up, bro.
Oh. Say wallahi, bro. Watch out. Oh shit. Okay, coming through. Guys, look at me nice.
Yo, rip that shit, Hibana, rip that shit. Oh, wait. Okay, oh, not.
Yes! Yes! Oh! I'm low-key playing like a dumbass, but I'm just happy I got the wall.
I like to call the hate economy. I'm sure somebody else already coined that phrase, but I arrived at it independently, damn it. Facebook figured out that when people are angry, they're more likely to interact with posts and stay on their platform longer. They were basically incentivized to rage bait people, so that's exactly what Facebook did. So Facebook has heavily contributed to the current hateful atmosphere and political polarization we got going on right now. Just for some extra clicks. Facebook and, well, every other social media company use psychological tricks to get people addicted to their platforms, and they are well aware of this. In a leaked internal document, one Meta researcher said, Instagram is a drug. We're basically pushers. Which brings me to Meta's second biggest platform, Instagram, which has been shown to be detrimental to teenage girls' mental health. Meta's own researchers found that 32% of teen girls said that Instagram made them feel worse about their bodies and their lives. IG has been blamed for the skyrocketing rates of anxiety and depression in teen girls, and some linked it to suicidal thoughts. The company saw this data and decided to push the product onto younger users anyway. Frances Haugen, the Meta whistleblower that leaked these documents, testified before Congress and said that the company consistently chose profits over people's well-being.
Choices being made inside of Facebook are disastrous for our children, for our public safety, for our privacy, and for our democracy.
But all that stuff pales in comparison to what Facebook did in Myanmar. Myanmar, it's a country in Southeast Asia. It used to be Burma. Probably don't think about it too much. I know I don't. But Myanmar was the site of a
What's up, bro?
case of genocide. Throughout the 2010s, there were a lot of ethnic tensions between Myanmar's Buddhist majority and the Rohingya Muslim minority. Now, Facebook was absolutely massive in Myanmar. It was by far the most used website in the country. So a bunch of Buddhist nationalists, along with members of the Myanmar military, used this to their advantage, and they flooded Facebook with anti-Rohingya propaganda. This culminated into a full-on ethnic cleansing, where the military was slaughtering thousands of Rohingyas. According to Amnesty International, Meta was repeatedly warned by activists and researchers about the risk of Facebook being used to foment and incite violence against the Rohingya in the lead up to 2017. Despite these warnings, Facebook did nothing. Moderation in Myanmar was virtually non-existent. They didn't have enough Burmese-speaking moderators to handle the volume of hate speech flowing through the platform. But I mean, despite all that, nothing really happened. Some fines got paid, hearings happened, but the platform is still pretty much the same size and nothing really changed. Nothing ever changes. Nothing ever happens.
Basement.
Monsanto was the largest agrochemical company in the U.S. They made herbicides, they made genetically modified crops, and they made a lot of enemies. Like the entire country of Vietnam, for example. Along with Dow Chemical, Monsanto was one of the largest.
10 seconds to insertion. 5 seconds to go. A bomb must be located and defused.
First dibs. Watch us see these clips.
I'm gonna get shit on, guys.
Watch this, y'all. Easy one tap. No! Oh my God.
Where'd you die to?
Okay.
Producers of Agent
Mine on that
Orange
doorway, by the way.
used by the U.S. Army in Vietnam. Fortunately, even after the war, they continued the trend of giving people cancer with their pesticides. One pesticide in particular, called Roundup, was especially dangerous. To this day, Roundup is the most widely used herbicide in the world. Its active ingredient, glyphosate, has been linked to a bunch of health issues, including cancer. For decades, Monsanto marketed it as safe for humans and the environment. It turns out it was killing more than just weeds. In 2015, the IARC said glyphosate was probably carcinogenic to humans. And Monsanto took that personally. Monsanto's PR department went on a whole campaign disputing the IARC. It was probably carcinogenic to teen. The IARC said glyphosate was probably carcinogenic to humans. And Monsanto took that personally. Monsanto's PR department went on a whole campaign disputing the IARC and continued to affirm that their product was safe for humans. Well, I think you know where this is going. In 2018, Monsanto started getting sued left and right by people who claimed that they were diagnosed with cancer due to Roundup exposure. The first major trial was of a school groundskeeper named Dwayne Johnson. By the way, this is not Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson we're talking about, in case you're but something was cooking. And unfortunately, that something was his cells. Johnson was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and Evidence showed that he had developed it because of his frequent use of Roundup at his work. The jury found that Monsanto
Yo,
had
what time
acted
is it,
with
bro?
malice
Fuck.
and awarded Johnson $200.
I'm just losing like shit right now. I'm probably playing like shit right now.
Another jury awarded $80 million to a guy named Edward Hardiman, who had used Roundup on his property for decades before developing the same cancer. Then came the Pilioid case.
Yeah, I'm
They
hungry
were a
as
married
shit,
couple who
cuz.
both developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and were initially awarded $2 billion. That was reduced on appeal, but at that point it didn't matter. The message from American juries was loud and clear. Monsanto. As if these legal battles weren't bad enough for Monsanto, the discovery process revealed the extent of their evilness. The documents showed that the company...
Alright, y'all, I'll be back, y'all, bro. Yeah, y'all be good in the chat. Better not see no fuck shit when we get back. No back. Yeah, you see what I'm eating? So good.
company had ghost-written scientific studies and then gotten outside academics to put their names on them. They also pressured regulators and worked to discredit independent researchers who raised concerns about glyphosate. Now, unfortunately, Roundup
Listen, y'all.
wasn't the only thing killing people.
Play one more
Anniston,
game.
Alabama, Monsanto had a plant that was producing PCBs, a chemical used in coolants, pesticides, paints, and a bunch of other shit. Turns out PCBs are more toxic than my last marriage, and since the late 1920s, Monsanto had been dumping them into Anniston's rivers and burying tons of the stuff in the ground. By the 70s, it had gotten so bad that all the water around Anniston had basically become poison. Locals were warned not to eat the fish or any vegetables grown in the area because they were contaminated with PCBs. And bro, this is like the same pattern that keeps repeating throughout this video. Monsanto was aware since the 30s that PCBs were toxic and caused cancer and other health issues, but they kept producing them and dumping them. After the news broke in 1971, the plant shut down production of the chemicals, but the damage was already done. To this day, that place is basically Chernobyl. Residents have to wear masks when they cut their grass so they don't breathe in the toxic fumes, and the water supply is still tainted. The residents of Anniston would see some justice, but it wouldn't be until 2003 to the stuff in the ground. By the 70s, it had gotten Alabama put their names on them. They also were initially awarded $2 billion. That was reduced on appeal, but at that point it didn't matter. The message from American juries was loud and clear. Monsanto. As if these legal battles weren't bad enough for Monsanto, the discovery process revealed the extent of their evilness. The documents showed that the company had ghost-written scientific studies and then gotten outside academics to put their names on them. They also pressured regulators and worked to discredit independent researchers who raised concerns about glyphosate. Now, unfortunately, Roundup wasn't the only thing killing people. In Anniston, Alabama, Monsanto had a plant that was producing PCBs, a chemical used in coolants, pesticides, paints, and a bunch of other shit. Turns out PCBs are more toxic than my last marriage, and since the late 1920s, Monsanto had been dumping them into Anniston's rivers and burying tons of the stuff in the ground. By the 70s, it had gotten so bad that all the water around Anniston had basically become poison. Locals were warned not to eat the fish or any vegetables grown in the area because they were contaminated with PCBs. And bro, this is like the same pattern that keeps repeating throughout this video. Monsanto was aware since the 30s that PCBs were toxic and caused cancer and other health issues, but they kept producing them and dumping them. After the news broke in 1971, the plant shut down production of the chemicals, but the damage was already done. To this day, that place is basically Chernobyl. Residents have to wear masks when they cut their grass so they don't breathe in the toxic fumes, and the water supply is still tainted. The residents of Anniston would see some justice, but it wouldn't be until 2003. Monsanto agreed to pay a settlement of about $700 million to residents of the town. Unfortunately, this is not the norm. When regular people go up against these giant mega corporations with their teams of lawyers, it's kind of like a midget in a movie. The little guy tends to get, sorry for the, crass analogy, but it's the truth. And that's exactly what happened to Percy Schmeisser. He was a canola farmer in Canada. One day he was out there, farming his canolas when all of a sudden the wind blew some of Monsanto's patented GMO seeds into his farm, and Monsanto sued him. One day Percy noticed that some of his plants were more resistant to pesticides than others, so he kept the seeds from those and planted them, and eventually most of his canola crop was made up of Monsanto's plants. So they sued him on the grounds of a patent infringement. The case went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and Percy lost. Luckily, he didn't have to pay any damages or anything, but still, I think that's a terrible precedent to set. By the mid-2010s, Monsanto was absolutely bleeding money from all the lawsuits. And in 2018, they were purchased by an even bigger, evil-er corporation, Bayer. Now, I'm not really sure why Bayer wanted to buy Monsanto. Maybe they were trying to corner the market on companies who committed war crimes with chemical weapons. Whatever the reason, this might have been the worst purchase in human history. That's including the time I bought a storage shed off Facebook Marketplace that turned out to have a family of little people living in it. After buying Monsanto, Bayer had to take on all of their lawsuits. By 2020, they had to pay billions of dollars to settle existing Roundup claims. And they're still fighting new ones to this day. Over 100,000 lawsuits have been filed, which caused Bayer's stock price to crater harder than my GPA after I discovered World of Warcraft. Since acquiring Monsanto, Bayer has spent more money on legal fees and settlements than most companies earn in a lifetime. So even though the Monsanto name is no longer on the building, the lawsuits aren't going anywhere. I don't know, man. Hearing this just makes me feel so gay. And by that I mean happy, of course. But hearing about the history of Monsanto's new parent company makes me the opposite of happy. Makes me sad. I'm feeling sadness and anger.
What is
Bayer
what is he talking about?
And by that I mean hearing this just makes me feel so gay. And by that, I don't know, man. Hearing this is no longer on the building. The lawsuits aren't going anywhere. I don't know, man. Monsanto name is no longer on the building. The lawsuits aren't going anywhere. I don't know, man. Hearing this just makes me feel so gay. And by that I mean happy, of course. But hearing about the history of Monsanto's new parent company, the opposite makes me sad. Anger. Bayer was started in 1863 as a textile factory in Berlin, and they mostly sold colored dyes. At the time, purple clothes were a hot trend across Europe. Bayer got in on it. But once the trend
Try it, bro.
Now with another banger, a new wonder drug that worked even better than aspirin. Heroin. Back then, heroin was sold as a cure for pretty much everything from tuberculosis to the common cold. It was a common cough suppressant for the whole family, children and all. That's right, little Hans was getting messed up off lean in 1898. Now, the really messed up thing is that heroin was marketed as a non-addictive alternative to morphine, which was also invented in Germany about 100 years before. It was even said to be a cure for morphine addiction. Now, of course, we know this is not true at all, and in fact, heroin is more addicting than morphine. Luckily, German regulators figured this out, but it took them like 20 years to finally do something about it. In 1914, heroin was restricted to prescription use only. If you're a student of history, you know that 1914 was also the start of World War I. Most people see war and, think of all the death and destruction. Bayer saw an opportunity. They partnered up with some other German chemical companies to create the German School of Chemical Warfare, where they created chlorine gas, which when combined with the water inside of someone's lungs would create an acid that would literally burn soldiers from the inside out. Unfortunately, this was only the beginning of Bayer's long history of war crimes. In 1914, heroin was restricted to prescription use only. If you're a student of history, you know that 1914 was also the start of World War I. Most people see war and, think of all the death and destruction. They saw an opportunity. They partnered up with some other German chemical companies to create the German School of Chemical Warfare, where they created chlorine gas, which when combined with the water inside of someone's lungs would create an acid that would literally burn soldiers from the inside out. Unfortunately, this was only the beginning of Bayer's long history of war crimes. In 1925, Bayer merged with other German chemical companies to form IG Farben, which would be the single largest company in Germany and also the largest donor to this guy. During World War II, IG Farben suddenly got a huge influx of new employees, mostly from Poland. Unfortunately, the pay was shit and a lot of the workers would just randomly stop showing up. A lot of these people were also experimented on by IG Farben's research.
Protect the bomb.
Meanwhile, IGF was providing the Nazis with Zyklon B, the gas used in the chambers, and methanol, which was used to burn corpses. Hey, that's a pretty good slogan.
Ready for assault.
Holocaust. Brought to you by Bayer. At the Nuremberg trials, 24 IG Farben executives were charged with crimes against humanity. Only 13 of them actually received prison sentences.
Down to 10 seconds. 5 seconds left. Op 4 located the bomb.
Like, what is he doing, bro?
Compared to the severity of the crimes they committed, though, the sentences were basically a slap on the dick. The Nuremberg chief prosecutor famously mocked them as light enough to please a chicken thief. Damn, that goes kind of hard. Now, you would think all of this bad publicity would be enough to okay, Bear, you don't get to be a company no more. But no, they not only survived, but they thrived. The third largest pharmaceutical company in the world. And they continued doing messed up shit all the way into the 80s. In fact, other than gay sex, Bayer was one of the primary causes of the AIDS epidemic. In the mid-1980s, they were selling Factor 8, which was a blood clotting agent used to treat hemophilia. Factor 8 was synthesized authorized using blood plasma from donors. At the height of the HIV pandemic, Bayer was knowingly collecting
Guys know where
plasma
this
from
is.
at-risk donors like prisoners, heroin users, and gay men. This resulted in anywhere from 6,000 to 10,000 hemophiliacs in the US alone getting infected with HIV. I mean, that doesn't sound like a crazy number, but it is when you consider how rare hemophilia is. It was a huge proportion. Once this came to light, Bayer figured out a way to kill the HIV virus in the drug and developed a safer version of Factor 8, which for some reason they didn't name Factor 9. Kind of a missed opportunity. Now here's the really they still had a massive
Who better
stock
feeling
of
like-
the old contaminated batch, and
Feel like
instead
mine?
of throwing it away, they just sold it all to
$4
bunch of
sell.
and like Bayer had to pay more money in legal settlements than they made on selling this stuff, so they basically killed a bunch of people for no reason. Even after this, Bayer just continued to dominate. Since buying Monsanto, Bayer's share price plummeted 60% due to all the settlements. As of March 2026, Bayer is worth $20 billion, which is less than what they bought Monsanto for. So in a way, Monsanto might have actually been one of the best companies ever, because they almost single-handedly destroyed Bayer. During the Vietnam War, Dow, along with Monsanto, was one of the primary manufacturers of Agent Orange. Now, despite its name, this was not a delicious citrus-flavored beverage. Agent Orange was a herbicide that the U.S. military sprayed across millions of acres of Vietnamese jungle to strip away the Viet Cong's cover. The primary ingredient in Agent Orange was dioxin, one of the most toxic substances known to man. So in addition to killing the trees, hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese civilians were killed or maimed because of this stuff. 500,000 children were born with birth defects. Not even the Americans were safe. Many veterans came back sick with cancer, neurological disorders, and respiratory diseases because of their exposure to Agent Orange. Now, as you can imagine, Dow got a lot of shit for this. Their official corporate position is that Agent Orange was produced at the government's direction and that they bear no responsibility for how it was used, which is, you know, a convenient thing to say after you cash all the checks. Following Vietnam, Dow's body count continued to pile up. Back home in Midland, Michigan, where Dow was headquartered, decades of chemical production left the surrounding area contaminated with dioxin. Now, Dow tried to downplay the risk of dioxin publicly, but privately, the company was well aware that the stuff was toxic as shit. All the land and water within miles of the facility had been contaminated, but in 2023, the EPA came down on them. Dow had to pay the EPA $54 million and clean up their mess. $54 million for decades of contamination. That's kind of like getting a parking ticket for burning down a building.
Hey guys, I actually wanted to make a correction here. I was wrong. It wasn't $54 million. $5.4 million.
People who lived in the area experienced health issues tied to dioxin have been to fight Dow for years with no success, despite the known links between the chemical and chemical biology.
He stinks, bro. y'all are scary.
cancer, and other diseases. And it's not even the worst one. On December 2nd, 1984, a pesticide plant in Bhopal, India, leaked 40 tons of toxic gas into the surrounding neighborhoods. Many people woke up choking on the fumes. Others didn't wake up at all. The estimated death toll ranges from 30 fumes, other toxic gas into the surrounding neighborhoods. Many Bhopal Indians won. On December 2nd, 1984, a pesticide plant in Bhopal, India, leaked 40 tons of toxic gas into the surrounding neighborhoods. Many people woke up choking on the fumes. Others didn't wake up at all. The estimated death toll ranges from 3,800 to 16,000, depending on the source. And that was just in the immediate aftermath, not even counting the residual effects. Over 500,000 people were exposed to this stuff. Survivors and their children still suffer from birth defects, cancer, and lung issues to this day. Their water supply was also contaminated, which exacerbated everything. Now, the chemical leak wasn't actually Dow's fault. It was caused by another company called Union Carbide, which Dow purchased in 2001. After buying the company, Dow made it very clear that the disaster was Union Carbide's responsibility. So they bought the company and absorbed its assets, but none of its liabilities. Just like my ex-wife, man, they got all of the money and none of the blame. Eventually, the people of Bhopal were given an insulting $500 each in compensation. You know what? That's a good t-shirt idea. You know, my entire family was brutally killed by toxic chemical exposure, and all I got was $500 in this lousy shirt. When it comes to poisoning people with chemicals, Dow comes second only to DuPont. So it's fitting that the two of them merged in 2015. So let's talk about the other half of the merger. DuPont, it's not just one of the most evil companies in the world, but possibly one of the weirdest families of all time. They make chemicals and materials like nylon, Kevlar, and Teflon. Now, for all the other companies in this video, I don't really care about their backstory, but the lore of the DuPont family is so insane that it needs to be talked about. Like, they had two family members that blew themselves up. One murdered an Olympic gold medalist, and another one literally helped create the United States. The history of DuPont stands with Pierre
Hey, your phone about to die, y'all, so.
Parisian watchmaker who served as commerce secretary for King Louis XVI himself. In 1783, he helped negotiate the Treaty of Paris, which ended the American Revolution and officially recognized the United States as an independent nation. He even befriended some of the founding fathers. In fact, Ben Franklin called him one of the very great men of the age. Oh, Ben, if only you knew what they did to us. Not long after the signing, Pierre's political position in France would quickly...
Not locked in, bro. I am not locked in at all.
Come to an end when the French Revolution broke. So in 1789, the French public was starting to get fed up with the cost of bread and the lack of availability. On October 5th of that year, the resentment boiled over and turned into a straight-up bloodthirsty mob that stormed the palace where the king and Marie Antoinette were staying. Pierre DuPont and his son actually physically defended Marie and the king from the mob. Unfortunately, prison and sentenced to death a few years later, somehow Pierre managed to avoid the quarantine and return to America with his sons. They eventually settled in Delaware, where one of his sons there started a gunpowder company. Let me tell you, business was booming. Get it? Because gunpowder. In the War of 1812, DuPont became one of the U.S.'s biggest suppliers of gunpowder. As a reward, Pierre's other son, Victor, was named as the director of the newly formed Bank of the United States, which was like the precursor to the Federal Reserve, which made the DuPonts even richer and powerfuler. That's not a word. Which made the DuPonts even richer and more powerful. Meanwhile, Eleuthère was pretty much monopolizing the gunpowder business. By the time he died in 1834, the company was pumping out almost 1 million pounds of gunpowder every year, which is almost enough for an average Chinese fireworks show. With every war America was involved in, the DuPont fortune grew. These guys were like the OGs of the military-industrial complex. After the U.S. Civil War,
Damn.
Lamont DuPont thought that the family business had plateaued, and he wanted to expand out of gunpowder. Back in Europe, a Swedish schmuck named Alfred Nobel just invented a delicious new way to blow people up. Dynamite! By the way, this is the same Nobel that the Peace Prize is named after.
Use your drone to locate a bomb.
Anyways, Lamont founded Rapano Chemical Company in 1880,
I
which
don't want to.
manufactured nitroglycerin, the main component in dynamite that makes it go boom. And of course, they dumped the leftover chemicals into the Delaware River, kicking off the long-standing...
Yeah.
In 5 seconds. Found a bomb. Make your way to its location and defuse it.
Bro, fuck, I like really talk. God damn it, man. My fault. That stream was probably hell. Race lock-in. All right.
Tradition of pumping harmful chemicals into our drinking water. Now, playing with explosives is dangerous business, especially nitroglycerin, which is very unstable. This is a lesson Lamont learned the hard way when he blew up.
Yo.
In 1984, his factory exploded, killing him and 5 others. Now, the wild thing is, he wasn't even the first DuPont to meet this fate. 27 years earlier, Lamont's uncle, Alexis, was also blown up in a factory explosion. I guess the apple doesn't explode far from the tree. Now, you would think all this stuff would teach the DuPonts not to mess around with dangerous chemicals, but you'd be very, very wrong. By 1913, DuPont had grown so big and so powerful. Make your way to this location. So anyway, that's
Maybe like race locking. Not really know. Oh. Maybe like race locking, and I'd be like, no. Oh shit! Oh hell no! Whoa.
powerful that the federal government designated them a monopoly and forced them to split up into 3. After World War I, DuPont started diversifying into non-explosive chemicals, especially plastics. In the 30s, they invented synthetic materials like nylon and polyester. If that's not evil, I don't know what is, bro. These guys are the reason my scrotum is infested with microplastics. Thanks a lot, fuckers. But their biggest innovation came on April 6th, 1938. While experimenting in a lab, a group of DuPont chemists accidentally discovered a miracle material that seemed not to break down at high temperatures. They called it Teflon. Before long, Teflon was everywhere. It was used in the creation of the atomic bomb. It was used to manufacture raincoats, airplane parts, and of course, non-stick cookware, which was sold to housewives under the name Happy Pan. Some called it Cancer Pan. See, Teflon contains PFAs, chemicals that are highly durable and don't break down. That's why they're also called forever chemicals, because they stick around forever. In our drinking water, in the soil that we grow crops in, even in our bodies, forever. PFAs are linked to a wide range of health problems, including hormone imbalances, damage to the immune system, and cancer. It definitely should not surprise you at all to learn that as far back as the 1960s, internal studies at DuPont showed that they knew about the risks of PFAs, but chose not to warn the public for decades. It would be another 30 years before the public was made aware that they were actively being poisoned. It all started with a farmer in West Virginia in the 90s. He noticed his cows were all randomly dying. 153 of his cows dropped dead, all with blood dripping from their noses and mouths. The EPA came out and tested the river that the cows had been drinking from, and it was absolutely teeming with chemicals. They also noticed the river happened to be downstream from the DuPont factory. DuPont denied any wrongdoing, so the farmer reached out to lawyer Rob Billett, who filed a class action lawsuit against them, which over 70,000 people joined in on. It took years, but eventually the case was settled. DuPont was found responsible not only for contaminating the drinking water for people in West Virginia, but PFAS had potentially poisoned billions of people worldwide. Pretty much everyone. This was the subject of a movie called Dark Waters, starring Mark Ruffalo. Funnily enough, he also starred in Foxcatcher as Dave Schultz, an Olympic gold medal wrestler who was murdered in 1996 by John DuPont.
Yeah, this video's long as shit, bro.
This might sound harsh, but I think the DuPonts really need to go back to their family tradition of blowing themselves up. Now, how much did DuPont actually pay for their crimes? Which really is not enough, considering that a 2015 study found that PFA chemicals are in 97% of Americans' blood. In the years since, DuPont claims to have switched to less toxic materials, but I don't know, man. I don't trust them. This is what my Uncle Ruben says he's gonna stop trying to seduce my girlfriend. Okay? He's done it 7 times now.
Yo, what's up with this dude, Uncle Ruben, bro? Yo, Uncle Ruben's school third. I gotta get locked up.
1970, John D.
Hell nah.
Rockefeller founded Standard Oil Company. At its height, it controlled over 90% of U.S. oil refining, which is, in my opinion, a bit too much. The Supreme Court agreed. In 1911, they designated Standard Oil a monopoly. Okay, I'm going to skip past a few decades of corporate bullshit. By November 30th, 1992, two of Standard Oil's offshoots merged to form ExxonMobil, which immediately became the largest.
What's going on? No. What is he doing up there? Just running around.
Largest non-government owned oil company in the world, and it continues to be at the top today. There's a lot of oil companies, and they're all evil. What makes ExxonMobil stand out? Well, many reasons. A big one is climate change denial. I know this is probably going to get me a lot of shit from the chuds and the hear me out, okay? Leaked internal documents shown that Exxon's own research between fossil fuels and climate change all the way back to 1981. Publicly, though, they denied the Exxon spent tons of money suppressing this research and lobbying for politicians who didn't believe in it. This became kind of apparent in the early 80s when Exxon
Holy shit.
natural gas reserve, which was discovered in Indonesia. Even though it would have brought in billions of dollars, internal assessments showed it would require venting shit tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, enough to visibly accelerate global warming, which would trigger stricter regulations. So, in the end, Exxon chose restraint, not out of any concern, but because, you know, they got together, they crunched the numbers, and decided that ROI wasn't good. After years of mounting evidence and public pressure, Exxon finally promised in 2007 that within a year it would stop funding climate change. They were lying and continued to financially support denialists like Oklahoma
Nah, he
Senator
fucked up.
Ken Inhofe.
Probably just flatlined me. Oh, well, the other guy just retarded. I'm not gonna say it. No.
Danny, man-made climate change isn't even real. Look, I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything. I don't like to get political on this channel here. But I'm just saying, mega corporations who have a vested interest in you not believing in climate change spend a lot of money to convince you it's not real. Just something to think about. Plus, you know, I don't think breathing in petrochemical fumes is great for your health. Like, I'm pretty sure you're better off eating hot Cheetos and ripping nitrous oxide than breathing in smog. But okay, let's say the pollution in the air isn't a big deal. Well, don't worry. Exxon also pollutes the water. Exxon has been at the center of quite a few major oil spills. Let's start with the one in March of 1989. An Exxon oil tanker spilled 10.8 million gallons into Prince William Sound in Alaska.
Exxon has come under heavy criticism for not moving more rapidly to clean up the spill. The crews have not arrived yet to begin cleaning the slime off the island's beaches and rocks. That probably won't happen until next week.
The company was ordered to pay $1 billion in criminal fines, but this wasn't even their worst offense. In 1973, a Coast Guard helicopter flying over Newton Creek in Brooklyn, New York, noticed that the water was basically oil. An investigation revealed that 30 million gallons of petrol products had been dumped into the water.
Who the fuck I'm
That's
watching?
A lot. But unlike the Alaska spill that had happened all at once,
Bro,
this
son.
was a slow process. The oil
You
had
gotta
been
be
leaked
someone
into
I
the
know
creeks
for you to be
since the
calling me
late
son.
1800s, back when Exxon
What you
was
got
still
going on?
Standard Oil. What's wild
Hey,
is
look,
that,
I'm watching
after being
some
warned about this, Exxon
important shit, bro. That's all I got to say, bro.
until the 90s when they finally started taking steps to pump oil out of the region. But by then, even more oil had seeped into the ground, contaminated 100 acres of land, and created like an underground lake of oil. When they were sued by the area's residents who claimed they had suffered health defects from drinking gasoline, basically, Exxon only had to pay like $20 million, which is nothing.
Bro, why they wrong, man, bro? I know that's gonna work against my team. Because I play super disciplined. Okay, I gotta play super disciplined and lock in this one so you can win. But see, like, how am I supposed to do that when you got motherfuckers over here doing that?
The diffuser is no longer in your possession.
Bro. Oh, I fucked up, bro. Says I'm dialed, died 5 seconds later. Bro, it's too late for this. Too early. Too early for this. Bro, you can look-y kill bro in a drone. That's crazy. Son. Nah, I gotta figure out who you is now, bro. Hold up. Let me see about this, man. Skimmer. Alright.
Notorious cases. There's
Man, what you
plenty
got
of
going
other ones,
on,
like
man?
the spills in the Mississippi River or the 2013 Pegasus pipeline rupture in Arkansas.
Incredible, and that is oil.
But okay, most of these were accidents, like, oops, I just contaminated the drinking water of millions of people and destroyed an entire ecosystem. I get it. I get it. It happens. I'm not perfect. I'm close, but I'm not perfect. Anyways, what definitely isn't an accident is the geopolitical scandals and human rights abuses that Exxon has committed. Like when they pretty much took control of an entire country. In 2007, Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez nationalized the country's last privately run oil fields, kicking Exxon out of the country. This was a massive problem because Venezuela had the world's largest crude oil deposits. So Exxon started searching in the region for other sources of oil. After years of looking, they finally found it in Guyana, a country whose only claim to fame is the Jonestown Massacre. In 2015, Exxon announced that they'd found 10 billion barrels of that sweet, sweet oil off the coast. So they immediately started bribing Guyanese politicians and trying to win favor with the public, promising big investments. They also sponsored the national cricket team, which is their most popular sport, and slapped their logo on the team's uniforms. Today, Exxon is pretty much running Guyana, and it's producing 650,000 barrels of oil per day, while allegedly ignoring environmental rules. According to one journalist, the line between the state and ExxonMobil is blurring, making it harder to distinguish where one ends and the other begins. Now, to be fair, Guyana's GDP has blown up since Exxon started drilling, but if you know anything about GDP, it's not necessarily a good indicator of quality of life. Poverty continues to be rampant, with 43% of people living on less than $6 a day, and Guyana has one of the highest unemployment rates in Latin America. Most of the infrastructure that Exxon promised has been handled by Chinese firms using foreign workers. So are they better off than before? Yeah, I guess. But the prosperity is mostly reserved for the Guyanese politicians and Exxon executives. Tale as old as time. But honestly, that's nothing compared to the time they funded a private army that tortured and killed a bunch of people. In 2001, ExxonMobil was accused of doing some downright heinous shit in Indonesia. In the 90s, Indonesia was in the middle of a civil war between the government and a separatist insurgent to a lawsuit, these soldiers went out on raids to local villages around the plant where they proceeded to beat, torture, and local villagers. And it gets more disturbing. According to the suit, pregnant women were forced to...
Op 4 is located a bomb.
Loaded
Get ready
back!
to engage.
Bro. Nah, we bunked right now. Inside. Bro, yo, I gotta get off, bro. After this game, yo. Yeah, it was a good stream for what it was, even though I don't think I won a single game. But I'm actually so tired, bro. I guess I should play another one until I win, right? Nah, I don't think I'm gonna do that. No, I think I won one earlier, right? Maybe.
Jump repeatedly before being physically assaulted, and men were mutilated with electric shocks, burns, and knife-inflicted graffiti. What the fuck, man? Well, that was ExxonMobil, and they're going to be pretty tough to beat, but this next company is a top shareholder of ExxonMobil. In fact, they hold stakes in every single company we've talked about so far, other than Purdue Pharma. Oh, and they also have a mysterious supercomputer that predicts the future and is named after a Disney character. I'm talking, of course, about... BlackRock is the world's largest asset manager. They manage anywhere between $12 to $14 trillion, which is more than the GDP of every country on Earth other than the US and China. The company is the brainchild of Larry Fink. You've probably heard of him from conspirators on the internet who say he runs the world. Well, I mean, they're kind of right, to be fair. Larry Fink started his career in 1976 at the investment firm First Boston, where he pioneered mortgage-backed securities, which, if you've ever seen The Big Short, you know are the main cause of the 2008 financial crisis. After leaving FB, Fink started BlackRock, which went public in 1999. In a few short years, he grew the company's portfolio to $1.3 trillion. That is until the whole 2008 financial crisis, which he helped cause. BlackRock, along with every other investment firm, pretty much shit the bed. But luckily, Larry caught a break. Since he was an expert on these mortgage-backed securities...
What up, bro? Hey, y'all. I gotta figure out if I won a game today or not. I'm so tired, I don't even remember. But if I didn't, bro, I gotta stay on. I'm gonna lie, bro. Like, if I ain't won a single one... Oh, yeah. I won one earlier. Alright, bro, I'm all this over, bro. Hey, peace out, bro. Hey, love y'all, bro. Stay safe. Whatever y'all doing, keep grinding, keep moving.